Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, we've got loads of fantastic questions for you today. We'll jump to them in just a moment. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, you know, all the YouTube stuff, and shop at KendoStar to support the channel. That's what pays for it all. Okay, so we're awesome. Of course, I'd say that I own the place, but you know, check out reviews and all that sort of thing. Let's get into these questions. Hi Andy, now that my 8,000 cotton hakama has been used for the coming up 2 years now, it's becoming harder to get the pleats to stay on their original fold lines. I guess we can never expect hakamas to always stay as perfect as when they came out of the packet, but I've been wondering if folding the hakama while it's still slightly damp after washing it is okay or not. I was just wondering if folding it is before it's 100% dry could help with this or not. What are your thoughts? Is it a bad idea? I don't think you really need to do that. I don't think you need to fold it while it's still damp. What I would do instead is just make sure that when you've finished washing it, get some like clothes pegs and then hang it up to dry. Yeah, make sure you hang it up to dry, and then whilst it's hung up, sort out all the pleats then, right? And then use your clothes pegs to pin them at the bottom, all right? And let it, so your pleats are already sort of in there as it's drying, yeah? Pull them so that they go straight, and then clip your clothes pegs on, and it should sort of keep it like that. I think that's a better idea than folding it and letting it, you know, it might go sort of musty if you do that. I think you'd be better off doing it that way. Okay, I hope that helps. Give it a try. But yeah, I mean, you know, obviously it is difficult to keep the pleats in the cotton hakama, but watch this space. We're working on that. Okay. Hi Andy, love the show and love KendoStar. Thank you very much. My question for you: I've recently bought the premium Shinai shaver Kezuri in the white oak case. However, there aren't any videos or manual guides on how to use the different parts of this particular shaver to guarantee an optimum result before your Shinai goes on to the oil bath stage. Appreciate your comprehensive response. Cheers. Okay, let me grab one. Oof, okay. So what you're referring to is this one, the Shinai Kezuri that comes in the wooden case. A beautiful item, of course. You have to open it up like that. It comes apart, and essentially, what you've got is various sort of aspects of the tool. I'm not sure it'll come up there. I'm not going to use this one on the Shinai. I don't have one at the minute that needs it, but basically it's got various shapes that are used for all sorts of different things. It's got a sort of blade here that you can use to actually shave the bamboo away, and then you've got these series of sort of rounded sections as well, and what they're for is for sort of smoothing the edges of the take. Okay, the individual slats, you can use that to run down the edge of those to sort of round them off a bit, and then this one is a sort of blunted shaving section, so if you don't want to really gouge into the take, this is just for removing the sort of light splinters as well on that side, and that's it. It's not super complicated, and obviously there's no rules. You can, you know, if you find a different or a more appropriate way to use it, then you know, feel free to use it a different way, but it's a great little tool. Okay, so that's that. Next one. Hi Andy, have you ever heard of Henry Smalls? My sensei pointed him out to me. He's a high-ranking sensei with no legs, and I watched a video of him doing a shiai, although it's quite an old one. The way he's created his own style of kendo to suit his disability and is successfully competitive with it is quite amazing. Have you ever practiced with someone who has disabilities that alter their kendo? And if so, do you make adjustments to the way you practice with them? Okay. Yes, of course. I've heard of Mr. Smalls. I've never met him, but yeah, of course I've heard of him. And of course, he's a fantastic example of how Kendo is really for everybody. With a little bit of creativity and a flexible mindset, it can be. There's no reason that challenges such as that can't be overcome. And as for have I practiced with people with disabilities like that? Yes, of course I have. It's not that rare in Japan, actually. I've never practiced somebody who's sort of missing legs or anything like that, but I have practiced with several people who have sort of missing arms or hands or upper limbs and stuff like that. It's not. I mean, it's not common, but it's not super unusual at all. And obviously they've adapted their Kendo in various ways to accommodate that. And in terms of, I mean, and I've had in terms of adjusting the way I practice with them. Not really, actually. No, I wouldn't say I do. To be honest, and I've even had practices with or keiko with people with such disabilities that I didn't even know, didn't even realize until afterwards. Definitely not. But no, I haven't made adjustments to the way I practice them with them, and no more than I would in other situations. Of course, I make adjustments with everybody who I'm practicing with, depending on their technical ability, their physical strength or size. Of course, I make such relevant adjustments, but it's not particularly because of if someone has such a disability. It's not like, okay, well, I better go soft on them, something like nothing like that at all. At all, actually. So yeah. It is something I've experienced, but only a handful of times. Next one. What's it like doing Kendo in Japan, training and doing Shinai? Is it much harder or easier? What would be the normal day in the life of a full day of Kendo training there? Well, I mean, it doesn't really work like that. It's not like, you go to Japan and suddenly you're a full-time Kendoka. That certainly wasn't the case for me. I had a job, or I was running a business. We started KendoStar in Japan, of course. I mean, the main difference between doing Kendo in Japan and elsewhere is that there's a lot more people doing Kendo in Japan, so the availability of Kendo practice is much more. There's much more opportunities to do Kendo either nearby or more frequently, and with more people and with more high level people. It's not that hard to go to a practice in Japan. And of course, I'm not speaking for the whole of Japan. I only know of the areas where I lived. I'm sure it's very different in some other regions. But in sort of southern Japan where I lived, certainly in the prefectures I did, it's not that hard. If you really wanted to practice with 8th dan senseis, you can make the effort to do it. There's usually some kind of opportunity that's reasonably regularly available. You could probably practice with 7th dan senseis any day of the week almost. Most dojos have several of them, so it's there's a great access to high level teachers. Training there depends. For adults, for the most part, especially if you sort of training somewhat casually, I wouldn't say it's harder. It's probably easier than certainly physically easier than in most parts of sort of Kendo in outside of Japan, I expect, because they don't do like a lot of Kihon practice or a lot of kirikaishi or something like that. You'll usually just do like a round of kirikaishi. You might do 10 or 15 minutes of Kihon, a round or two of kirikaishi, and then straight into Jigeko. It's mainly Jigeko. Whereas, outside of Japan, we tend to sort of practice like in a 2-hour slot, and we'll probably only do half an hour of Jigeko or something like that. And that's because in the West, of course, or outside of Japan, we don't practice that much as children. We don't grow up doing the Kihon. Like if you went to high school doing Kendo in Japan, you'd have done sort of several hours of Kihon every day. So it's different in that respect. So, you know, and of course there are access to really hardcore trainings as well, but you have to seek them out, and you have to try and get a sort of way of accessing them. Going to Japan doesn't automatically mean you'll get access to really hardcore training. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll get better at Kendo either. Obviously, there's a language barrier. You need to be able to speak Japanese to really benefit from doing Kendo in Japan. And in terms of doing Shiai, Shiai is a really interesting one. Shiai are very well run, of course. They run on schedule with no problems. The level of refereeing is generally quite high, in terms of, at least in terms of the recognition of Yuko Tatotsu. The level of competition is usually really quite high as well. So and they're usually really big. Well, they can be really big, much bigger than the ones we have outside of Japan. Even just your regular local tournaments can have like literally a couple of hundred people there. So yeah, it's quite different, but it's not really like, you know, the normal day in life of a full day of Kendo training. It doesn't really work like that. Yeah. You know, when I was sort of really seriously competing, and was able to finally get myself in a position where I could really train as much as I wanted to, then I'd try and get up in the morning, do an hour of Kihon and Uchikomi in the morning before work. I'd have a day at work, and then after work I'd go to dojo, do like an hour practice at the dojo, and then if I was able to, then I'd go to my daughter's dojo and do another hour there if I could. Well, it wasn't every day that it was more often than not that I couldn't actually, but on the days that I could, it was really fun. Okay, next one. Hi Andy, during wintertime when my feet are quite dry, and especially in some dojos with super sleek floor, I notice that my left foot starts to slip when trying to push far and strong forward. I never had that problem in summer. My feet are not as dry then as they are now. I tried out using a wet tenigiri to moisten my foot, but I've been told that shouldn't be necessary. Maybe I'm doing something wrong in my movement. Cheers. Well, look, no, I think this is something that's really individual. It's really not personal, but it's really, it varies from person to person. Some people find they don't struggle with it. It's something I actually struggle with as well. I tend to find that I get quite dry and hard skin on the bottom of my feet. So, in the winter, especially, as you say, on particularly slippery floors, it is something that I definitely struggle with too. So yeah, I wouldn't say that it shouldn't be necessary to sort of wet a cloth and dampen your feet. It's something I definitely do. It's not uncommon for people to do it in Japan either. It's really normal actually to have a cloth at the side of the dojo that's wet. So that's what I would do, to be honest. So yeah, and hopefully that will help. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's right to say it shouldn't be necessary. That depends on the person. I find it necessary sometimes. Next one. Hello Andy, I passed my Shodan exam recently. Congratulations. And I'm already training with Nidan grading in mind. What are the biggest thing judges will be looking at compared to the Shodan exam? Well, it's a difficult one because actually the gap between Shodan and Nidan isn't huge. It's not a massive gulf. Essentially, I mean, there's a thing set out that, you know, like a grading guideline that the All Japan Kendo Federation set out. I don't have that to hand, so I'm not going to read off that. But basically, to put it simply, you know, we're looking for you to have progressed somewhat from Shodan, have a better grasp of the quality of your techniques, a better kamae, maybe better ashisabaki, and of course your strikes must be must be generally making yuko datotsu. Maybe we'd like to see some sort of understanding of a level of kendo beyond just men strikes, simple men strikes. So yeah, it's just looking for a slightly improved version. For the most part, but if you're able to make not a variety of strikes, you don't need to make all sorts of different strikes, but if you can show that you can make strikes that a good quality meeting the criteria of yuko datotsu from a good kamaya position with zanshin, and you're able to some extent deal with the strikes from your opponent. So perhaps you're able to do Ojiwaza, or maybe you're able to do Nidan waza, something like that. Is really what we'd probably look for between Shodan and Nidan. Okay. It depends, though, of course. If you if you go out there and you absolutely beast it, you've got beautiful kendo, and you just do men strikes, you'll probably still pass. But we'll be able to see from the quality of your men strikes, whether you're able to do the other aspects that we'd expect as well. We can see quite a lot from quite little, actually. No question, just a thank you. Oh, thank you. Our dojo is about to start back up after lockdown. I'm working on getting back into shape and losing the extra weight we've all put on after the COVID-cation. My two oldest children are finally ready to give it a try as well. Fantastic. Thanks for putting together the Zero to Shodan series. No problem at all. Much appreciated. It's great review and preparation for shaking off the rust and getting the kids ready for time in the dojo. Thanks again. Oh no, thank you very much. What a lovely comment. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Hope your kids really enjoy coming to Kendo. Next one. Hi, Andy. I wanted to ask a question on recommendations on how to practice outside, being my living arrangements don't allow me to do inside very well, and I won't be able to make it to a dojo for at least a month or two due to complications, and I wanted to start working on the basics. And I wanted to thank you for the amazing videos you put out. You're one of the main reasons why I've decided to take Kendo on as a life journey. Thank you for all the hard work you're doing for the Kendo community and for the high quality products you have put out. I couldn't believe the quality when I got when I bought a beginner start value set. Thank you again. Have a fantastic day. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the wonderful comment there as well. Look, for practicing outside, it's a little bit difficult because obviously it's difficult to practice with your shoes on because you can't really slide your feet properly. If you're not barefoot. But, you can still do some. You can still do some basic suburi, some basic practice swings. Definitely. And I'm not sure what you mean by your living situation doesn't allow you to do it inside. There's a lot you can do inside without much space or much requirement. You can sit in a chair like I am and practice just swings this way. You don't even need a shinai. If you can have a shinai. If you can have a shinai, then great. But if not, you can just hold your hands as if you're holding the shinai. And just look in the mirror. Check your position here. Is this correct? Not poking the elbows out. Not swinging too far behind my head. Men. This way, you can practice kamae. You can, if you've got, you can stand up. You can take your shoes and socks off and practice just the suriashi, just forward and backwards. Try to move your body without leaning forward, side to side, those sort of things. And then maybe if you have enough room, you can do without a shinai while stood up as well. But if not, you can sit yourself down. I'm sure if you're creative, you'll figure something out, I'm sure. And then, you can go outside and give it a try. But just be careful because, of course, you can't really slide properly when you've got your shoes on. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I know it's not a super direct answer to the question you asked, but I think you'll benefit from that. Hi Andy, I have two Shinai questions. First, what is the average advantage of a larger diameter handle? Second, I'm told that Tsukagawa are made of pigskin and it's actually a requirement for tournaments. Could you explain why that is so and why it could not be another material? Thanks. Okay, so first off, the advantage of a large diameter handle, some people just prefer it. especially if they've got larger hands. Some people prefer it, prefer to have a larger grip on the Shinai. It's a personal preference thing very much. Also, one of the great benefits of having a larger grip is that a lot of the weight of the Shinai is then put into the grip. So most of the weight is towards your hands rather than at the tip. So it makes the weight of the Shinai feel very light. All right, it makes the tip of the Shinai feel very light, and you feel like you can swing it faster. So that's another sort of advantage of it. But it's more of a personal choice than anything else. About the Tsukagawa, yeah, I mean, it's not. There's nothing in the regulations that say it has to be pigskin. But it is always leather in that respect. I'm pretty sure it's pigskin actually. I need to check that. But there's no requirement saying that. It's just they don't make them in anything else. They don't make them in anything else. So yeah. That's why, and it's like they're made in the quantities of sort of hundreds of thousands, so it's not like they're looking to change it either. So yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's not a specific legal requirement of the rules. I could be wrong though. If someone can point me to the rule where it says that, then feel free. Hi Sensei, I hope all is well. My question is, when are you allowed to strike against an opponent after they've passed through on a missed or poor strike? I know the point of passing through quickly is to avoid a counter strike, but if the opponent doesn't pass through quickly and you're able to immediately make a good counter strike to their men, are you supposed to wait until they turn around? I read online you should wait until you see the red of their men on it, and just wanted to see if this was the case. Thanks. Okay, so this is a bit of a grey zone. First off, after you make a strike, you should not show your back to your opponent, or at least you should do it for as little time as possible. After you strike door, sometimes you have to, but after you hit men, you should try not to turn your back to the opponent. You shouldn't go off like this, man, like this. All right. So because of that. Yeah, obviously the defined target zone is generally considered from the front. So, you should be making strikes from the front. However, there is a grey zone there. Obviously, it is at the sort of discrepancy of the referees. If you sort of hit and then you sort of run off and you keep showing your back to your opponent, that's not fair either. So they will, and they should award... if you can't just turn your back on the opponent and then expect not to receive a strike. So if you do it sort of excessively, you run off like this, like, all right, I'll keep running this way so then they can't hit me. If they hit you, they're gonna give you the point, or they should give you the point. Give the point. So yeah, don't show your back for ages to the opponent, because if they hit you like this. It'll be painful, and two, the refs will probably still give the point. I certainly would. So yeah, you don't get a sort of immunity from being struck by just turning your back on someone, or running off like this. Oh, I'm safe for a minute. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I go on that. But on the other side of that, of course, is when after you made a strike, don't turn your back, or don't do it for an extended period. All right, because you might get a whack on the back of the head and you'll deserve it. Next one. Hello, Andy Sensei. I wish you and your family good health. Thank you very much, and good fortune in the new year. Thank you. We just started in-person training back at the dojo, but we're required to wear face shields and masks while practicing. Do you have any tips or insight to help improve breathing in such conditions? So, no. Sorry, I can't really help that much with this one, because I'm very lucky that I live in a country where the government advises against wearing a cloth mask whilst doing exercise. So we don't wear cloth masks under our men. We wear the shield, but we don't wear the cloth masks. I've never worn one. So I don't know what it's like to wear one. I can imagine what it's like. I've heard from people, my friends in Japan, that it's a pain. But I think it's just a case of you just got to be very, very careful, isn't it? You're going to have to build up your sort of ability or your tolerance to it. Take breaks when you start to feel out of breath. And don't push yourself too hard, because you are, of course, restricting your breathing somewhat. So, yeah, that's all I can give you on that. Sorry. Hi, Andy. I hope all is well. I was wondering if you had any tips on avoiding or avoiding overheating whilst in Borgo. I wear the Kachi Kendogi from KendoStar, thank you very much, to try and keep as cool as possible. Is it just something that you work through eventually, or just stopping to hydrate more regularly during training? So look, it depends where you live, right? It really does depend where you live, and the sort of weather and stuff like that. But overheating is actually one of the biggest causes of injury. Well, I say injury, but illness and even death in Kendo. So it's something you really have to care about. All right. And of course, that's in Japan. It's the thing in Japan when it gets very, very hot inside the dojo. It can be well over 40 degrees. And they're obviously wearing all the borgo and everything. And it's usually like high school when the training's at the hardest, where they're doing hours of kirikaishi and uchikomi and kakarigeiko. And every now and again someone sort of collapses and has to go away in an ambulance. Yeah, I mean, to prevent that, you have to make sure you're fully hydrated, properly hydrated, before you practice. Stopping to take drinks in the middle of practice, that's one thing. Yes, you can do that, but for the most part, that's too late. You need to take on the water beforehand. All right, so make sure you drink plenty, more than you think, as much as you can, fluid before you start practice, especially if the weather's hot. All right, and then otherwise, if you do start to feel yourself overheating, you do need to be careful, and take care to make a self-assessment, and if you need to stop, then you stop before you fall over. Okay. I think that's the only thing you can do. And of course, yeah, I mean, you'll build up a higher tolerance to it. It's a bit like the mask wearing thing. You'll build up a higher tolerance to it with more and more time as well. All right, you'll get more and more used to it. Okay, last one. Hi Andy, what's the proper way to receive a menjo? It's with both hands. They will pass it to you with both hands. You take it with both hands, and as you receive it, you bow. Okay, bow this way, arigatou gozaimasu this way, and then take it. Okay, that's it. It's pretty easy. Okay, that's it. Thank you for joining me today. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, shop at KendoStar. Have a great weekend. See you all next time. Bye-bye.